All right, so Illinois and Chicago are seeing record numbers of people leaving. The last 10 out of 11 years, Illinois has seen a population decline. And so why is that? Well, in this video, I'm gonna walk through the main reasons why most people who leave are leaving. And probably if you move here, why you're gonna decide you wanna leave after living here for a little while. So without further ado, I'm gonna give the top reasons why people are leaving the city of Chicago and Illinois in particular. So let's get to it. So I know one thing that you are gonna absolutely hate if you move here. It just drags on you, it wears on you, and that is the commute and the traffic time. Now, I live here, so I don't really know, like, I'm sure wherever you're moving from, you don't know, like, hey, we're the 37th worst place in the United States for traffic. As I do research for these videos, I was shocked to see it's not just me talking about how bad Chicago traffic truly is. And it's shocking to me when I looked into it, right? We are second, tied behind only New York as the worst traffic in the entire country. We actually tied them. And what that means is it actually results in about like 102 lost working hours every year for people who live in these areas. So it's not just me saying, oh, the traffic is bad. There is a lot more data actually. I found this information from this INRIX. It's like a global like company or place that does traffic studies, and they do it with over 950 cities in like 37 different countries to find out what areas are the most congested. And I'm gonna talk to you about something that they talk about, which is the most congested roads in the United States. And stick with me till the end and you'll see how many Chicago has on that list. But we are one of the most congested cities in the entire world. And this is why it's important, right, to figure out where that you want to live. We are the third most congested city behind Istanbul and New York. So when I'm talking about traffic times, you really, and transit and commute, you want to take this into account when you're moving here. This is very important. This is one reason why you want to give me a ring, so you can figure out, because it's a balance between commute time, the type of community that you want to live in, probably school districts. You have to really put all of these pieces together. There's train lines. Some people like the train lines, but you want to make, is the train going to make sense for you? Are you the type of person who wants to take the train every day, or you want to drive? Now, if you're searching here, that's one of the things. There are so many different areas you can live. You really want to factor in commute because it's brutal around here. Everywhere you go, it's just like probably at least an hour almost. You want to take this into account. For instance, you're looking to make a move and you say, okay, well, maybe I'm looking at Naperville. Naperville is a very sought after community, really highly rated schools. It's one of the safest communities in the United States. It gets on a lot of lists. So here's the thing. Naperville is 30 miles west of Chicago. 30 miles west. So think about that on traffic days, and especially if there's some sort of accident, or maybe you live on the south side of Naperville here, you are talking probably an hour and a half to 2 hour drive sometimes. So you need to factor that in when you are making your decision on where you want to move into this area, because that is one thing. When you pack up and you get out of Illinois, you're gonna be like, thank God that I'm getting out of this commute. Another thing about the commute is the slow travel speeds. We're talking on a lot of these expressways, average travel time of 14 miles an hour. And I don't know about you, but that just drives me bonkers. I absolutely hate to be sitting on a road there and just not moving 14 miles an hour. Now, I mentioned to you that this INRIX, they talked about the most congested roads in the United States. Well, they had the top 10 congested roads, and Chicago had 5 of the top 10. So look at this, you're basically surrounded by some of the most congested roads in the entire country. No matter which way you want to go, you want to live on the north side, you have 90, and both ways, east and west, are on that list. You want to live in the western suburbs, 290 is on that list. Down on the south side, 55 and 90 are on that list. It is just a lot of traffic. I can't stress that enough. And like I said, it's not just me saying that. It's these studies here that talk about how Chicago is just one of the worst traffic. So you need to prepare for that. But that is one reason why people can't stand living here, is the traffic. So I mentioned to you there's something that you have to pay attention to in Chicago, and that is potholes. We have some of the worst potholes in the entire country. I'm telling you, some of these are like 6, 8 inches deep, and they will wreck your suspension. They will wreck your car. You know, we have freezing and thawing. You know, we get a lot of ice in the wintertime with the snow and the ice and everything. It freezes, thaws, contracts. So we have really bad pothole problems. So you have to keep your eyes out for potholes. Another thing you're gonna notice, it's like perpetual construction. There's always construction. We have a lot of expressways, so it seems like it's constantly construction going on around here. All right, taxes. So much of this is about taxes. The number one reason, study after study about why people are leaving Illinois, is because of the taxes, income taxes, property taxes. It's just one of the most taxed states in the entire country. I found it shocking. There was a poll by the Illinois Policy Institute that 54% of the people leaving Illinois are leaving because of taxes. Another thing I found shocking was that like 48% of Illinoisans said that they would leave the state if they could. All right, so when I say taxes, I'll give you some examples of this and one of the reasons why people are leaving. And if you come here, you maybe get a job, you raise a family, why at the end of it all, you might end up deciding to leave yourself. And that is, a place like Tennessee, we have a lot of people who are leaving Illinois or going to like Texas, Florida, Tennessee. You don't have an income tax. And so if you are making $100,000 a year in retirement on your investments, whatever, and you stay in Illinois, you're gonna be taxed almost 5% on that, a flat rate of 4.95%. So if you move to Tennessee in 10 years, you're gonna save about $50,000, have $50,000 extra dollars than if you would have stayed in Illinois. So that is such a huge reason that people are leaving Illinois. Now, if you wanna talk about property taxes, now I don't know where you're moving from once again, but we're gonna talk about property taxes and you're gonna wanna stick around because later on in this video, I have a little bit about actually Cook County specifically and the taxes there. They're really confusing and you're gonna wanna watch because I'm gonna explain to you how they work. But in terms of taxes in general, in Illinois, you're looking at like an average of little over 2% property taxes, where in some states like Tennessee, you're looking at less, like 0.66% property taxes. So that is another massive savings over time and a big reason why, people come, they buy houses, they want to raise their kids, take advantage of the schools, but then eventually you're paying taxes, high property taxes, for services that you probably are no longer taking advantage of. So the high taxes in Illinois are truly the number one reason that people are fleeing this state. They come here, they get good jobs, they raise their families, they do all this, and then they end up leaving at the end of it all because they're tired of paying the high property taxes. And time again, that is the number one reason and possibly a reason why you are going to be calling me later on after you bought a house and saying, hey, it's time for us to finally get out of there. So taxes, high taxes are the number one reason people are leaving Chicago and the state of Illinois. All right, so are people moving to the city of Chicago? And the answer is absolutely. Illinois and Chicago are seeing people move in record numbers. There's a bunch of moving companies who do stats and stuff like that. You talk about the cities that have the most people leaving, the percentage of people leaving. What they found out is Chicago is ranked 7th in people leaving, and Illinois is ranked number 2, only behind New Jersey. So what is that? Illinois and New Jersey have 2 of the highest property tax rates in the United States. So go figure, people are leaving 2 places that have some of the highest property tax. So we are seeing huge numbers of people leaving the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, and I'm talking about all the reasons why. Crime. Crime is a huge reason why people are leaving the city of Chicago, especially after the pandemic. There was a ton of people that were moving. The whole country had a huge uptick in things like carjackings. Crime is relative, right? I always tell my clients one thing you should do is you want to walk around these neighborhoods. If you're thinking about moving here, you can only do so much. You can give me a call, I can help you. We can do some walking tours together, even virtually and stuff like that. But I tell my clients you want to walk around the neighborhoods. You want to walk around the specific house that you are thinking about purchasing, because crime is very relative and very subjective. But Chicago gets a bad rap internationally for being dangerous and crime. So there's a lot of people who are nervous about that. And if you're moving from another part of the country, you might be nervous because of that as well. But consistently people say that they are moving out of Illinois, they're moving out of Chicago because of high crime. So for instance, like I will tell you, we have had drops in crime, just Chicago crime, violent crime, murders, they have been dropping. But depending on where you're coming from, it's still gonna be probably a lot more than what you're used to. We've had like a 24% decrease in homicides. We're still talking about lots of shootings. Over the last Memorial Day weekend, there was 24 people shot. For a lot of people, that doesn't sound very safe, even though we're talking about a decrease in crime for the city of Chicago. But consistently, crime ranks as a reason why people want to leave the city. And for some people, they don't like going into the city. A lot of this becomes sort of a snowball effect of like, you see some news articles, some things happen, and so you need to be cognizant of your surroundings. but crime is a big reason why people choose to leave Chicago specifically. Some of them leave the state entirely, and some of them just wanted to get out of the city of Chicago because of the crime in the city. So there was a recent study done by a relocation company that said that for people over 50, 88% of them said that crime was a reason why they would consider leaving the city of Chicago. That's crazy. 88% would leave the city of Chicago because of crime. All right, another big reason that people are fleeing Illinois and Chicago is the harsh winters. It gets freaking cold here. Super cold, and you want to be prepared for that. So what does that mean? So you're talking about like December, an average low of 22 degrees Fahrenheit. In January, it's like 16 degrees Fahrenheit. So we've had these cold snaps that we've been calling the polar vortex. That's what we've been calling them, the polar vortex, where we will just have like 2 weeks of just frigid weather, like below 0 degrees, and it's just a really long cold snap. So that's one of the biggest reasons why people are just tired. They live here, they're tired of the long winters that last 3-4 months. They're tired of the ice. So we have a lot of homes here are not attached garages. So you park away from your home and then you have to walk there, which means you're shoveling snow. If you have to park on the street, you have to scrape off all the ice, scrape off the snow, or get something like an automatic car starter. Now here's the thing, I can't change the weather in all of Chicago. So like, it's not like, hey, maybe the commute can be different if I move to this community or the school district. Our weather is gonna be bad pretty much everywhere you are, but you have to be prepared for really harsh winters. But that's a big reason people are leaving. We also have a ton of overcast days. We have a very gray winter. It's not just that it's cold, that we have the snow, but it's really gray. We have a lot of like jumps with the temperature. So the snow becomes slushy and dirty. It's beautiful when it's out there and it just snows, but a couple days later when it's just dirty and slimy, it's just no fun. We actually also have really hot summers. So that like hot summers, really cold winters, a lot of people have just had it. In terms of snowfall, we're ranked number 11 in terms of the number of inches that we have on average per year. So you're gonna have to get ready for the snow, which a lot of people are just tired of shoveling. They just wanna move to a climate that they don't have to worry about the extreme temperatures. And so that's a big reason why people are leaving the city of Chicago and Illinois in general. I already mentioned to you that taxes are super high, but they're also super confusing. I wanna walk through this because Cook County is crazy. The taxes are just extremely confusing. Here's the deal. When you buy a house, nobody, not you, not the seller, not the attorneys, and not the agents know what the actual tax bill that you are gonna have is. And it gets even better. If you buy a house in June of 2025, which it is right now, you don't even know what the full tax bill for 2024 is, and you're not gonna know for another month or so. How crazy is that? You're buying a house in the middle of 2025 and the bill for 2024 isn't even out yet. It's like playing chess blindfolded. You have no idea what's gonna happen, and there's certain years, which I'm gonna talk about in a minute here, where you could really get screwed. Like I'm talking about having your taxes go up like 30-40%, sometimes even more. That's not the common thing, but it happens. It's why you need to reach out to me so I can help you figure that out, because I'm always looking at that tax stuff. But how are our taxes structured? So in Cook County, we pay taxes in arrears. That's what I'm talking about. For 2025, the bill is actually for 2024. So we pay for the year prior. So the bill that just came out in March of 2025 pays for the first half of 2024, which I'm going to explain to you how that works. The first half of the bill in Cook County comes out March 1st, and it is an estimate. Get that? An estimate of what the bill's gonna be. They take the last year, so we're talking 2023 now, they take that bill, they put 55% of that last year's first bill. They do an estimate because they don't actually balance it all out and figure out how much your taxes are gonna be until the second installment. That's where they apply exemptions, which I'm gonna talk about in a second. That's where they also will apply any new assessed values, which is when your taxes get increased by a crazy amount. Next year, that's gonna be happening, by the way, in some of the communities that you might be looking in. So when you are looking at the bill, it's an estimate of last year's. You don't even know the full bill of 2024 until like July or August of 2025. So it's just extremely confusing. So what happens is you get a credit at closing, and you have to negotiate that because, you know, sometimes it goes up. That's what attorneys help with that. But anyways, the taxes here are just really weird in that you really don't know until the second half of the year what the full bill is gonna be. So another thing is exemptions. exemptions. We have a bunch of different exemptions in Illinois specifically, and as a homeowner, you can claim certain ones. If you own that as your primary residence, you can claim the homeowner's exemption. If you're a senior, you can claim the senior's exemption. It's important for you to apply for these, and I help my clients do that. I help my clients when they don't do it to get money back, because you can go back a certain number of years. But right now, the homeowner's exemption is like around $1,200. The senior is a little under $1,000. Every year you can save that if you apply correctly. Now, when you're looking at a place, sometimes there's exemptions on those properties that when they're taken off, because one, you're not a senior, probably don't have a senior freeze, which is another thing that happens, disability exemptions, you can see your taxes go up a lot. So you need to pay attention to that, and I will pay attention to that for you to look and see if they, for instance, the homeowner, the senior exemption, the senior freeze, is where if a senior makes under a certain amount of money, they can have their taxes freezed at a certain amount or at a certain value, which can save them tons of money. But that goes off when you come and buy that house. So Cook County, there's a lot of nuances to the Cook County taxes. And one of the biggest ones, one of the craziest ones, is the reassessment. I've talked to people all around the country, and this is somewhat unique. It's unique in this area because DuPage doesn't do it this way, but Cook County does a triennial reassessment. So in next year in 2026, there's going to be, they basically every year there's a new reassessment. They just do different parts of Cook County, and this is where you can get screwed. Because if you buy a house now and they're doing a reassessment, sometimes that reassessed value could go up 50, 60, 70%, which means you could maybe have a tax increase of 60, 70%, which could greatly affect your monthly payments. So you really need to pay attention to this. Well, I will pay attention to it for you. Give me a call. I can help walk you through this. It's complicated, but I always do my best to just make sure that, when you're buying a house, you know the potential risks. Now, the thing is, usually if your assessed value goes up 35%, it doesn't mean you're gonna have a 35% tax increase, but you wanna be prepared for it. So I mentioned people are leaving the area because of the taxes. Well, not just that, but they're freaking confusing and people hate dealing with them in Cook County. And it's like every 3 years, there's like a boxing match. It's like, I gotta fight, I gotta appeal, which I'll help you do. There's attorneys that can help you appeal. There's also free services for that. So reach out depending on where you're at, I can hook you up with some of those. But the confusion of the Cook County taxes is a reason that you want to reach out and talk to me, because I can help walk you through this, and you want to know what you're getting into. So it's not just about them being high, which they are, but it's about them being just ridiculously confusing. All right, so one of the biggest reasons that people are fleeing the city of Chicago, and not really the state, but the city itself, are because of the Chicago public schools. Time and again, I'm telling you, so many people, this is happened from time eternal, is that you have kids and you want to move out of the city because the Chicago public schools are not known for giving quality education. You can look at ratings, and there's different parts of the city that have better schools, but in general, take a look at this property, right? $1.25 million property in the city of Chicago. So you have a house like this that sold for $1.25 million, and it has a high school that's rated 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. So many families, they're just not comfortable with that. They like being in the city, but they just can't stand the Chicago public school system. It's also challenging because, you might be in an area where you just have a 1 out of 10 school. You can't do anything about it. If you want to try to get into a school that's farther away, you have to get on a waiting list. In 2022 and 2023, only a quarter of the students at the Chicago public schools were able to read at their grade level. And in terms of the math, only 17.5% of students tested their grade level for math. So just in general, you have really poor testing. You also have nearly 40% of Chicago public school kids who are chronically absent. So the school system itself in Chicago is a big reason why people want to move outside of the Chicago. And if you're thinking about moving from another place and you're looking at schools, that kind of a thing, you probably are also going to be looking out the outskirts of Chicago. Now, one thing about this move from the city into the suburbs, it's not as pronounced as it used to be. We are having more and more people stay in the city and not making that jump to the suburbs. They like living around restaurants, shopping, they like the hustle and bustle, and they are willing to go to private school, that kind of a thing. There's a policy institute out of DC that did a study that says that they're just not seeing that quite as much. There are more people that are staying in the cities, but in general, when you have kids, you want to have good school systems, The Chicago public school systems are a big reason why people move out of the city of Chicago. All right, another reason that people indicate when they're leaving Illinois is because of jobs. You have Chicago, you have Illinois, it's a hub of commerce. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of opportunities, but compared to some of the other cities around the country, Chicago actually has pretty high unemployment. In June of 2024, the unemployment rate in Chicago was over 7%, making it the highest unemployment rate in the entire country. So while we have a lot of job opportunities, certain sectors perform better than the others. We're seeing education and healthcare around the Chicago area and Illinois have had some increases, but in general, we are not seeing the market increase relative to some of the other cities around the country. The Illinois job market has been underperforming nationally compared to the national job market. From January 2024 to January 2025, we saw only a 0.59% increase in jobs, while nationally we had a 1.28% increase. All right, so after watching this video, are you completely done with Illinois and Chicago? You want nothing to do with it anymore? Well, that's cool, you figured it out. But if you're still thinking about moving here, I think there's awesome stuff. A lot of the people that are leaving for the taxes and everything, they've come here, they've raised families, they've had great jobs, and now they're leaving. So if that's who you want to be, let me help you find a place. All right, reach out. I want you to not have these issues when you move here, so that when you find the right place, you find the right location, you're not itching to leave once the kids are out of school or anything like that. So those are some of the reasons why people are leaving Chicago. And if you like this content, subscribe so you can learn more about what's going on in the suburbs around here, why people are moving, where they're moving, and what it's like actually living in Illinois.